Hello everybody and welcome to Parks Bros. It's Drew here, and I have an interesting rumor that I'd like to talk about, and this pertains to SeaWorld San Diego potentially getting a roller coaster in 2021. Now, of course, since this is a rumor, do not believe it straight out of the gate. Do take it with a huge grain of salt. But this rumor is coming from BehindTheThrills.com, stating that Wild Arctic, the simulation ride at SeaWorld San Diego, will be having its final season in the next season or two, and will be replaced with a potential launch coaster under 30 feet tall. Now, this is definitely not the first or last time we'll hear about Wild Arctic potentially closing in the near future. Heck, we've heard some staff even talking about how this will be Wild Arctic's last summer. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me considering it has just celebrated its 25th year in operation at the park. It is definitely becoming quite outdated. Now, this ride, if you didn't know, is like Star Tours and pretty much has the same operating system. But with Star Tours, they did a complete revamping after its many decades in operation and gave it new life. Whereas with Wild Arctic, they haven't really done that in a long time. It really would not surprise me if Wild Arctic, the simulation ride, would be closing down very soon. But we'll just wait for the park to announce that potentially in the near future. But the exhibits should not be closing. I don't get why they would close the exhibits behind the ride, because they are some of the best themed areas of the park, and honestly one of my favorite places in the entire park, and I would be gutted if they were to take out the exhibits. But moving on to what would potentially replace Wild Arctic, BehindTheThrills.com is stating that a potential launch coaster for families that would be quite compact and potentially go underground might be on its way for 2021 or possibly after that. Now, it wouldn't totally surprise me in all honesty, because so many SeaWorld-owned parks have been getting coasters like crazy in the past couple of years. I mean, Busch Gardens Tampa just got Tigris this year, and they will be receiving RMC Gwazi for 2020. Busch Gardens Williamsburg will be receiving a brand new intimate launch coaster called Pantheon in 2020 as well. And SeaWorld San Antonio will also be receiving a wooden coaster, of which the manufacturer is still not known, in 2020. And SeaWorld San Diego will be receiving a B&M dive coaster, potentially called Mako, for this next year. And depending on how you classify Tidal Twister, this would be the fourth year in a row that SeaWorld San Diego would be receiving a roller coaster. First, starting off with Electric Eel in 2018, then Tidal Twister in 2019, and then Mako 2020, and potentially this new family launch coaster in 2021. You can definitely tell that SeaWorld is switching gears into the thrill ride and themed ride markets more than the actual exhibits and aquatic life form areas. And honestly, I think this is a smart move, especially after some of the backlash they've gotten in the past couple years over certain things. But I'm really interested to see if in the next year or so, we will be receiving information about a potential new coaster taking up where Wild Arctic, the simulation ride, once stood. Now, of course, this is all rumors and speculation as of right now, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down below on this potential new coaster, as well as what you'd like to see at SeaWorld San Diego in the near future. And honestly, I would love to see an RMC Raptor or potentially a Gravity Group wooden coaster. But do keep in mind that if the coaster does go over 30 feet, they will need the Coastal Commission's go ahead, otherwise the coaster might not happen. But the Coastal Commission has been quite gracious in the past couple years, allowing Electric Eel and Mako to be built. But honestly, my dream fit for where Wild Arctic is definitely a launched Raptor coaster. But honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if it was potentially a premier coaster, because the one park I didn't talk about that's getting a coaster in 2020 is SeaWorld Orlando, which is heavily rumored to be receiving a premier multi-launch coaster that will have its own custom layout. So it wouldn't really surprise me if they had a package deal to have a second custom layout coaster from Premier. I mean, they've already had a package deal with the Skyrocket 2 models, which are now at multiple different SeaWorld parks. And this includes Busch Gardens Tampa, Busch Gardens Williamsburg, as well as SeaWorld San Diego. But it wouldn't surprise me if we saw something in the vein of even West Coast Racers if it was a Premier launch coaster, kind of looking like the Spaghetti Bowl section all over and potentially winding throughout that. Or they could potentially take the more themed route, which I would personally prefer, where you'd be diving in between icebergs and stuff like that. That would be amazing. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this rumor pans out, because we, of course, will not know what will be coming in 2021 officially until at least 6 months down the road. Potentially January of next year if it's going to be a big addition. We did find out about Mako in January of 2019, even though it isn't slated to open until around mid-2020 or so. But again, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. I'm really interested to see what you guys think on this rumor, but do remember to take it with a huge pinch of salt, because it is a rumor, so don't go shouting around that this is for sure happening. This is all speculation as of right now, until the park officially announces something, hopefully a little ways down the road. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you have not. We're going to have tons of videos pertaining to all the theme parks in Southern California, as well as even beyond, because we will be heading to Cedar Point in a couple weeks. But until then, we'll see you on the next ride.